Hello, everyone. Abraham Escamilla here. Um, I'm going to begin talking about two different observations that I had at Hoover High School. One was from October 2nd, 4th, and 5th, and the other one was from October 9th and 11th. And here are the different questions. But I'm going to reflect on all the questions and bring it all together. And here is my 11th grade AP class. And this is how they performed. As for the environment, the new changes that have taken place is that now students are using the books that were on the shelf. Also, the walls colorful and decoration on the right side near C and F groups of students. This wall has a light green construction paper with a heading that says Model Student Essays. There are now 7 papers plastered on the wall with essays that are either handwritten or typed. Students came in after lunch very talkative and are talking about their other classes during the day. Once the bell rang again, which signaled the start of class, students settled down and were drawn in by the teacher's instructions. Student 2 from Group A has asked questions about the state test. The question is if this state test will be combined with their class grade, and her answer was no. The students are then instructed to read from their checked out textbooks an essay that has to do with their understanding on writing. Students are well integrated in the class and vary in diversity in their seating arrangements. During their quiet reading alone time, a student from Group C has fallen asleep with her head down on the table. Once the teacher instructs if they have finished, they let her know they need more time. Students, after a few more minutes, are instructed to start talking to their group about what they have read. During this group discussion, students have diverted their attention to talking about other things other than reading. Students in Group B, C, and F are back and forth from talking about the reading and talking about other things. Students in A, D, and E are most engaged and stay on topic. Towards the end, the students are engaged in becoming involved in a community-oriented discussion and are adding on to the questions the teacher is asking on the essay. As for the teacher, staff, and administrators, I didn't really talk to any staff or administrators on this day, so I just focused on the teacher. The teacher starts off explaining to the class that they are going to start off with the state testing, and she is addressing the class on the right side of class near Group C. This is her favorite spot to direct instructions to start discussions. She shows them on the projector what questions they need to think about when they are reading, and also what their agenda for the day is going to be. She instructs them to read quietly on their own the essay from the book that they have checked out from class. During this time, she asks if they are finished, and they respond with a resounding no. After a few minutes, she ends the reading and asks students to discuss the reading, how they relate to the questions. This turns into a lot of group work where half of the class is on task discussing questions and the other half isn't. She then ends their conversations and starts asking questions to the class from her stool, which sits near Group C. From here, she forms a discussion with her class where students are shouting answers, and once she hears something good, she focuses on it and addresses the class, thus a form of positive reinforcement. So she went from an isolated reading to a passive community-based discussion within groups to a mediator of an open classroom. Here she shifted focus to the students' main focal points and rewarded some of them, and then she dismissed the class. And here is an example of my 12th grade Pathway Unit English class. And I will start with the environment. Students here were able to use computers that were checked out in order to use them to work on their research essays. This was the only notable change where they had off their own computer at their desk. Students came in separately and were talking in low tones. They looked tired from the day, and this was their last class. Students were integrated as much as possible in their respective groups and seating charts. They knew what they were going to do in the beginning of class because they started lining up to check out a computer from the safe. Students in Group B have a female, Asian student who is working on finding sources by herself as well as the other Hispanic female. They have been working on the whole time by themselves to get this done. The two Hispanic males in this group are talking about school sports and not focusing on the material at hand. Students in Group A are disengaged except for one female student who is focused on her research. Students in Group C are all working on finding resources. This is a welcome change since the group is usually not on task. Lost my place a little bit. Students in Group A are disengaged except for one female student who is focused on her research. Students in Group C are all working on finding sources, and this is a welcome change since this group is usually not on task. Student 1, which is usually a disruptor, is looking for pictures for his essay since they can discuss art and write about it as long as it pertains to the assignment. Students in Group D have 2 students engaged in a male Hispanic and a female. Hispanic are using the technology for its purpose. A male student from this group, which is Group D, however, is using his phone and has his earphones on. The last 2 Hispanic males from Group D are having a quiet chatter about finding resources and of personal activities. They have learned to get work done while they engage in other activities. Group B has all students looking at their computer screen and engaged. Group D has the girls talking about their position statements and trying to organize their thoughts. The student behavior I noticed changed once I stood up and was asking and looking at their work. Some clammed up, but I persisted and acknowledged what they were trying to work on, and they received me very well. The class started to become engaged even more after this. As for the teachers, staff, and administrators, again, I didn't talk to the staff or administrators on this day, so I focused on the teacher. The teacher didn't give instructions at the start of class because the students were already lining up to check out computers. She noticed this and then guided them on how to check out computers and reminded them that they needed to work on their position statement. These were based from the death penalty, euthanasia, and the value of life. These topics had to be chosen, and the students were going to have to gather resources from the computer to help with their position statements. From here, she stood behind her desk in the middle and in front of Group B where the projector is. She instructs them that she wants them to argue a point. After she gave these instructions, students were set free and were allowed to find internet sources from their computer on their own. During this period, she walked around and was trying to help students get started on their essays. During this time, I asked if I could help students with source finding and on their position statements. Her instruction only differentiated after she gave her instructions about their position statement. For the rest of class, she walked around to check on each group and help them get started, and so did I. And here we have observations from 10/4/2008, and this is the AP English class. A major change of environment today is the row seating arrangement that has been placed because of state testing procedures. Students are also now using the computers in a safe box to access the test digitally on the website. So there is testing going on. For the students, the students are a melting pot with various ethnicities in this class. The students came in sort of surprised about the seating arrangements change, but then they realized that they had a state test today. Their behavior was apprehension and kind of anxiety about taking this state test that they felt they weren't prepared for. Students want to do well in every test they take and take pride in doing well. Students ask a lot of questions regarding the test and wanted to know how this will hurt their future chances at being accepted at a higher learning college. When testing began, they were serious and quiet when taking their test, and they had no trouble finding the state exam. After the test, each student asked each other questions about the test and are wondering how they did when they walked out. And here we have the teacher give instructions on the right side of class where she told them about why the seating arrangements have changed. And was because of the test. She then started to walk from that side of class all the way to the back where she was looking at the students' computer screens to see if they were on the right web page for the testing. Students didn't have a problem finding that exam, so then she differentiated her instructions on what this exam means. She explained that it was mostly for the student score and for the state, where they looked at demographics on how well students are doing at this point of the year. After giving these instructions, she paced back and forth until a student had more questions about what was going on, to which she individually helped interpersonally. Some students were having anxiety about the test because they didn't feel prepared, and she calmed them down by telling them that she made a mistake in not getting them prepared enough for the test because of time constraints. And on this day, I also was in the Pathway English class, the 12th grade class, and here is what happened on this day. Uh, uh, Today, again, the environment changed. The students were put in rows of 6 for the state exam. Students are using technology in the form of laptop computers to take the test. Students are prepared by knowing that today is a day, and they notice the seating arrangement change but are not impressed. They are annoyed about having to take a state test, and this supposedly counted against a small portion of their grade. Students sat down as close as possible to their old group or pause seating arrangements. Students quickly ask to get a computer so that they can get started, and once they sit down, they listen to their instructions. Students seem to know exactly where to go to take the test since they are a senior class. Once they received all the information from their teacher, they intently began to start on their tests in silence. After a few minutes, some students had finished their test taking while other students didn't. The ones that noticed some students finished surrounding them wanted to finish quickly too. This happened mostly on the left side of the classroom. Senior students in this class took less time than the junior students to finish. And as for the teacher engaged the students from the right side of the room. She told them that this state test was going to count against a small portion of their grade, so they should try and do well. After giving instructions, she walked in the fourth aisle, row 4 and 5. She stayed towards the back of the students, looking at their computer screens to see if they needed help. She didn't differentiate instructions, but she did ask again if students needed help with the test. Just raise their hand, and she will come to them. Once the students became situated, she sat down and let them take the test. So she sat behind her desk. During the test, students were intently focusing in on their tests until a couple minutes. Some seemed like they wanted to finish quickly. And once the students finished and put their computers down, the other students wanted to do the same. The teacher stayed behind her desk and did her other work until the midpoint of test taking, where she stood up and went to the left side of the room because she noticed a lot of students finishing early. The teacher then walked over to the other side of the to check out the other students' computers. During this time, she asked the ones that finished how they felt about a test individually to try and see if they tried. The bell then rang, dismissing them, and they walked out. So you can see the differences going on around here between the AP English class and the Pathway class. Okay, here's the next observation from 12.9. The environment has only one difference in that there is now an added essay that is on display on the right side of the wall that has that model student essays. The technology hasn't changed either. The teacher is using the projector as well as her computer to give instructions. Students have walked in animated and eager to find out what they're going to do today. They have begun highlighting keywords on their grading rubric with the teacher simplifying the paper so that they understand it. Then they see this has to do with an essay. When they see the projector go up, they realize they are getting writing prompts. Students are pensive, thinking about which prompt to choose and what type of topic essay they should write about. The seating chart has changed since last week was the end of the first quarter, and they are amused about their new seating arrangements. They have new faces with their paws, but they are still integrated and well adjusted to this change after being the second day. Students are always prepared, taking pencils and college ruled paper just in case they might be needed. When a teacher gives the students free rein to work as a group to read and figure out what is the author's purpose for writing their essay, they come together and accomplish their goals. They are excited to see how they did as far as the competition for the best group response based on votes goes. Winners are picked by the students, and then the bell rings and they start leaving. Teachers, staff, and administrators the teacher's staff has stood for most of her class behind her desk and also sat on the desk to illustrate how the students needed to highlight their rubric. She is helping and simplify the rubric so that they understand what is expected of them from the AP standards for essay testing. She uses the projector to show the students the prompts they will be given for their respective essays. The teacher, after giving a visual, she gave verbal explanations about what she wanted from them in their essays. She then walked over and gave students books so that they could look for these examples from the back of class. The Eventually, the teacher gives the students the ability to work on groups to come up with a purpose response